Oxford from the inside. The good, the bad, but always the truth.
Hi, I'm Katie.
And I'm Abby.
Welcome to episode 2 of Oxford from the Inside, the good, the bad, but always the truth.
Today we are joined by Daniel and Sean. Would you guys like to introduce yourselves? Daniel?
Hi guys, I'm Dan. So I'm in my final year studying PPE at Somerville. And yeah, I guess one of my favourite things about Oxford is sort of specific to Somerville, in that we have like a quad where you can just walk on, and like in the summer it's really nice because you can have picnics and that type of thing. And yeah, just super wholesome.
I'm Sean. I'm also a PPE student, but I've just finished my first year, and I'm at St Peter's College, like Abby. Favorite thing, I'm in my college choir, chorus scholar there, which is great fun. I'm a part of a lovely, friendly college. So yeah.
Amazing. Okay, so welcome to the show. Today we're going to be talking about what we do and don't, I guess, enjoy about studying at Oxford. So obviously we've got Abby and Sean are first years, and then Dan and I have just finished our final year. So we've got a good range of perspectives. So starting off, do you guys want to give us just a brief overview of why you decided to apply to Oxford, and I guess why PPE as well?
Cool. Do you want to go first, Sean, or shall I go first? I don't mind.
Go for it. You go first.
So I guess I don't really know like why, like what pushed me to like apply to Oxford, but I think particularly Somerville, like walking around on the open day, I think a lot of the other colleges can be quite austere and imposing, whereas like Somerville, I always thought, and like, I still think that it's a super like nice and welcoming place. And I think on the open day and at the interviews as well, when I got there, like everyone was really lovely. I remember being super scared before one of my interviews, sort of going forward and beyond now, and like not being able to do the problem sheet that I'd been set before the interview. And the the student helper was like, it's fine, like, just don't stress. And like, I think that atmosphere at Somerville sort of like made me want to apply. Regarding PPE particularly, I think like I always enjoyed economics at school, and I guess for me it was like a big choice between like economics and English, I guess. And I like the opportunity to study like PPE and like politics especially, and understand like what happens with our like in the world is I guess what ultimately drew me to the course. Don't know if it still does, but yeah.
Yeah, well, I'm kind of the same in that, the politics in particular kind of drew me in, and I did economics A level, so I kind of knew that was the vibe I wanted to go down with uni. Why Oxford? And kind of my teachers had pushed me towards it, I would admit, a bit, but I was never like, when I was younger, I never put myself in like the academic Oxford bracket. It was kind of much more kind of sixth form, more recent. But yeah, I just kind of thought it would kind of fit in with my personality. I quite like the idea of kind of the collegiate system, small cozy college, and that's why I chose Peters as well, known for being friendly. Yeah,
That's really cool. Yeah, like you say, Peters has got a really friendly vibe, and I think same reason for Somerville. Really, I applied to Peters because of the friendly vibe, and I know my sister applied to Somerville because it was a friendly vibe too. So I just thought, like, I know how relaxed and everything things can be in Peters, and I know Somerville has a great time as well. So I was thinking, I was just wondering what a normal day for a PPE student is like. Freshers versus finalists.
yeah. So, well, my day, well, it varies. Humanities-ish student means like we don't have quite as much of a strict, hectic schedule as a scientist. But in first year, PP is known for being quite heavy with the workload. There were some points where I had 3 lectures, bam, one after the other, which was quite intense. But that would normally be my morning, and then afternoon I'd either get to the library or work in my room, do the essays, do the reading I had to get done. But I've never been much of an evening worker. I'm either too tired or I'm out trying to be with friends or something. And so, that whole stereotype of you will be in the library till 3 a.m. Of course, if that's how you work, then like, great. I mean, you're kind of lucky, but it's definitely not a necessary thing. And so, yeah, my evenings, I always had off.
I guess in comparison to first year, like third year PP is a lot more sort of relaxed. or not relaxed, but like it's less structured in that you have fewer contact hours, you have fewer lectures that are, because you've done them all in second year, so you can sort of go back and like revisit some of the second year lectures, and that's quite nice. So sometimes that's what a day would look like, but mostly I guess it was sort of tutorials and sort of independent study for those. So yeah, like a lot of the time spent in the library, or like I like to use coffee shops. So a lot of time spent in Oxford's coffee shops, annoying the baristas and not leaving their coffee shops was sort of how I spent a lot of my time. And I found that to be really effective for me because it meant that I could sort of see friends, see people, as opposed to just sort of being holed up in a library, which can be quite intimidating for like long periods of time, especially during finals. And so yeah, I guess by the end, that's sort of what I was doing with most of my day, moving between coffee shops.
Yeah, I think it definitely kind of has that trajectory of moving away from, or definitely in humanities, away from kind of more structure, more lectures, towards more independent study. Dan, do you feel like that has come like naturally? And Sean, do you feel like that's something you can see yourself moving towards being able to do? Because I know at the start it's quite intimidating thinking, oh my gosh, by the end of my third year I won't really have many contact hours and it'll be down to me to motivate and push myself to do the work. So do you think that kind of comes naturally once you're here?
Yeah, I think in second year, because obviously PPE doesn't have exams in second year, the pressure's like sort of less full on, and Sean will probably enjoy her second year quite a lot as a consequence if you can go back.
Yeah.
Second year, the pressure's like sort of not there as much, and you sort of have like sort of directed learning via tutorials. But then in third year, it's very much, I think, as a consequence of the fact that you have finals and everything is sort of based on those 8 papers that you'll do at the end, you're sort of forcing yourself to get into some sort of routine. And I think that whole idea of like assessing everything at the end really forces you to sort of get it together and like pull your finger out and sort of do what you need to do. And so yeah, I think it's very manageable as long as you get started early and have like a structured plan.
Yeah, I mean, some people, just looking at my friendship group, some people will have a strict day, you know, get to the library at certain times and leave at this and have dinner then. But others will, you know, get out of bed at 1 p.m. and cram an essay the night before. So, you know, it's completely dependent on the person. You will get it done. I mean, me personally, I'm quite strict with my day. I have at least a rough idea of what I'm going to do in my day. And so I don't think not having contact hours scares you, because you'll always be filling time. You'll always have something to be reading or some essay to be writing or due in the near future. So yeah, it's not too bad.
I don't know, the kind of depressing thing in third year is that you sort of realize that a lot of the stuff never really ends. So like you've read like everything on the reading list, and then you sort of realize that there's this whole like extra bit of literature that you haven't sort of discovered, and then you look at the exam paper and you end up like reading some more, which is always fun.
Yeah, I think there's always more you can be doing. Like there's never, you know, because it's that academic environment, you can always write a bit more, you can always read an extra article. But I think, you know, you do get confident with how, you know when you've done enough. I think that's definitely fine to do. I was just wondering if there's anything that you guys have found particularly challenging. So I guess Sean in your first year, and then Dan across your very long 3 years.
Yeah, I mean, it is the obvious answer, but the difference from school to Oxford in particular, I mean, it is a big jump. And I didn't actually do any essay-based subjects at A-level. And so I still remember Freshers Week, I think it was Friday of Freshers Week, I got an email from my philosophy tutor going, right, so you know, you have an essay due on Monday, just try and get it done, it'll be fine, it's not too tricky. And I'm sitting there having not written an essay since GCSE and going, right, here we go, let's do it, it's starting. So yeah, it's challenging and you have to get your head in the right zone quite a lot of the time. But you know, you get over it, you get used to it as time goes on.
Yeah. I kind of say the opposite. So obviously PP is sort of like quite a broad like range of disciplines. And so I think the essays I always found sort of to be okay. But then the problems with econ, especially, like I often found myself like, not crying, but like spending a lot of time over a problem sheet trying to work out the answers, and sometimes not being able to find the answers. But I guess it's all like a process of learning. And then the tutorials are really good because then you go into a tutorial and suddenly your tutor has all the answers that you spent like the past week trying to work out. And that's, I guess it's a really good thing about Oxford, is that like you sort of have that like catered support and tailored, like because you're only in like small tutorials to sort of go through the stuff that you find tricky and get the answers that you need to feel like you're learning. So yeah, I think I found that particularly challenging, but we got there in the end.
Oh, that's good. I know like sometimes like, well, I don't really have to write a lot of essays, so it's quite good for me. But I know like tutorial work can take quite a long time. But also I think one of the highlights for me in Oxford is the tutorials, because you get this sort of like in-depth learning from the tutorials. And I was just wondering what's been a highlight for you guys in Oxford, you know, so far and through the course of your degree, Dan? Sean, or Dan, do you want to go first? Sorry.
I confess quite a lot.
I feel, well, highlight for that. I mean, I keep on going back to Freshers Week, but no, I remember my first ever tutorial. Never done philosophy before. Walked in to my tutor's office, and it had books everywhere and pictures of famous philosophers, and I was just sitting there in like an armchair, going, right, this is real now. I'm actually here. You know, this isn't just a piece of paper saying you got in, and that's kind of stuck with me as a bit of a highlight. It still hasn't really sunk in, and I'm a year in.
I love that. I think I'm going to kind of like semi-steal it as my like favourite bit as well. But in first year, actually, like with our philosophy tutor as well, I just like at New, like we walked into his room and it was like the top of like this tower in New College, and like it was just, I don't know, I'm still in awe of his room. And like just the stuff he had in it. He had like a really old like vintage Mac computer that he had, like it was just a really cool room. I don't really know how to describe it, but and also he wrote with a chalkboard instead of like a whiteboard, and I was just like, this is really bizarre but also really cool. And we weren't allowed to take our phones and laptops into the tube, so we had to put them like away outside beforehand, so he made us do everything on paper, and it was just a really novel experience. But I guess academically, like specifically to the course, I did a module in social policy this year, which I didn't really know what social policy was to begin with. But now I've discovered that it's about like the changes sort of in UK government policy related to like poverty, homelessness, that type of thing since the Thatcher government, and it's made me like really able to engage with like current affairs in like a way more effective way than just like reading a Guardian article and being like thinking I'm informed, whereas like now I can actually like critically assess stuff. And I just found those tunes really fun as well.
Yeah, I think you do definitely kind of develop academically more than you probably recognize, because I think I didn't actually end up liking, in terms of history, a lot of my modules in my first year. They were interesting, but I knew by the end they weren't what I kind of wanted to go into. But then you just sort of develop, and over the last 2 years, I've pretty much loved all of the modules I've done. And so I think that's something that you kind of do naturally find where you want to be going. I guess non-academically, what do you guys kind of enjoy doing in your spare time, and how easy or difficult do you find it to balance that with the work? Because it is a lot of work, but you definitely can enjoy things.
So I guess like being in like the finals whole, like sort of revising for exams, like I sort of put fun on hold for a bit. But now getting back into things, I've got like really into like reading again, which I like really enjoyed at school. But I think being at Oxford, sort of like I lost the joy of reading for fun, which has now come back to me now that my exams have finished. But whilst I was at Oxford, I did like a lot of student journalism and was involved, like I ran the publishing house that publishes Charl and ISIS, which are the universities, like, well, one of the universities' magazines and newspapers. And so I spent a lot of time doing that, and that was really rewarding to sort of like see the newspaper go to print every week and like see the ISIS come out each term, like seeing those like products come to fruition, I guess, after like a term of hard work or like a week. Yeah, it was just always really rewarding, and I think I really enjoyed that. And then also I was Somerville's welfare officer. So yeah, I think the highlight for me of like Oxford was probably like organising an alpaca visit to like our college, and like having them like tread all over the gardeners like plants and her getting super angry, but like no one really caring because everyone was having too much fun with the alpacas. And also like semi-trespassing on someone else's property by bringing the alpacas in, but that's fine. We got it.
It was worth it to stroke the very cute alpacas.
Senior tutor and Principal Tommy, I was fine, so I'm fine.
I mean, I don't have anything as exciting as that, but I'm in my choir, my college choir, and I do that kind of twice a week. And I do really enjoy it. There are some spaces available, so if anyone's out there needing to get into the Peters Choir, please join us. But yeah, no, it's just a great way to kind of meet people that aren't either on your floor or who you're living with or in your course. Just another way to go out and socialise, which I love, and something that's another reason actually that I applied for Oxford, is that it's known for having like really a kind of top-notch music vibe, and yeah, I've loved doing that apart from my work.
And I think some of the chapels are like super pretty as well. Like, I'm always in awe when I watch Cable or something, how like pretty and like amazing the chapels are.
Yeah, I'm still in awe as well. Like, as well as the philosophy office, it's also like the chapels and just walking through colleges. Like Peters isn't. I mean, it's lovely, but it's not as grand as some of the others. And so just walking there, say if I have a tute or going to something music related, I'm just kind of like, wow, this is incredible. I can't believe that I actually am connected to this place in some way.
Yeah.
No, definitely. Like it honestly is just such like an amazing experience. It's like an experience in itself, just being a student in Oxford, right? I mean, I'm sure you can agree with me. And I just thought, you mentioned the llamas in Somerville and how that's just so absurd. Like who has llamas in their college? And I know Peters has their odd like quirks and stuff. Like we have a turtle. I think it's called Aristotle or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
And like we have like dog visits and stuff. So I was just wondering, like, well, especially for Dan, seeing as you've been there longer, in Oxford longer. But I was thinking, are there any sort of weird, funky quirks about Oxford that you don't think would happen at any other uni, and what you think about them?
Yeah, so I guess Sean has sadly been deprived of this opportunity, but she'll get it in third year. It's like after trashing, so like after exams you get trash, which is like sort of where your friends come. Katie came and trashed me actually, and like they just sort of throw like a lot of different stuff on you, and then you sort of end up walking through like, see, because some of us quite far from the town centre, you sort of end up walking like for 20 minutes back and like taking photos outside all the big like sort of Oxfordy sites, and then you also get tourists coming to take photos of you. So I remember like for one of my friends, like there were like loads of tourists just like congregated around her, like desperate to take photos. So I guess that's quite like an unusual phenomenon that you might not get elsewhere, but it's also super fun.
It's the same with matriculation as well, isn't it? I remember we were walking and there were people taking pictures, and they were all thinking we were graduating. And I nearly said, like, no, we haven't started yet. Like, this is just matriculating. But yeah, that's funny. Remember that.
Yeah, I think we do get a lot of tourist love as students. I don't know about the kind of normal people in Oxford, but the tourists definitely love all of the traditions, and they want to know more, and they always ask questions, and they're always like more hyped than you, even though you've just finished your exams. They think it's unbelievable. You're like, cool, I'm really tired. But in terms of kind of PP compared to other subjects, and I know there's a lot of, when you get to Oxford, there's a lot of, science versus humanities, they've got to get up at 9 a.m. We're not really on that vibe. But how would you say, like, in your opinion, obviously you can't speak factually, but the life of a PPE student is kind of different to lives of students doing other subjects, and what does PPE have that maybe is a bit different?
Well, I mean, first year, science and humanities definitely very different life at Oxford for sure. I think in the humanities, I mean, I may be completely wrong, but from my friendship group that I've seen, PPE seems to have quite a lot of work in first year, because you are doing 3 subjects kind of crammed, like the basis of 3 quite intense subjects based into 1 year. So I think that's quite different, but also you kind of have not the fame, or not even a stigma, not negative or positive, but just the name of PPE. It's quite a famous course, and so you could think you have lots to live up to in that kind of sense, but I haven't noticed it to be too kind of challenging or different in comparison to other humanities, really.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think when I first came to Oxford, there was this sort of stereotype that PPE was like PP easy, and that it was like not very much work, which like I sort of like fed myself this like idea as well somehow, because like you hear it so often, you sort of end up believing it yourself. But then sort of doing 3 years here, I've realized that it's not entirely as easy as people seem to think it is. But yeah, I think definitely with PPE compared to other subjects, like especially like the other humanities, like history and English, like a lot of them have their work sort of assessed like through coursework or dissertations, whereas like with PPE, I think the big difference is that we sort of don't really have anything like assessed or that counts for like your whole degree, and then suddenly like the 2 weeks right at the end, like everything is assessed in finals, which is, I guess, really different to the way that a lot of other universities do their degrees as well, and also quite different to the way a lot of degrees at Oxford are structured as well, which means that like, I guess for the first 2 and a bit years, like you're having a good time and like no one's really asking you what you're doing, but then sort of by the end, like you're really forced to get into it and smash those 8 exams at the end. But
Yeah, you done really well. Going through 3 years of Oxford. Whew, everyone deserves a trophy at the end, let's be honest. So I just thought, like, just to, before we, completely wrap it up, I just thought maybe if you guys could just give a few pieces of advice for, future applicants for PPE. Sean, you go ahead.
Thanks. Yeah, I mean, this is the typical answer that everyone gives, but just go for it. I mean, I didn't know that I was going to apply until, relatively recently. And I'm so happy I did. You never know what is going to happen in an interview or what's going to happen in the entry test. And so it's a lot easier to look back on it and go, I tried, I failed, that's life. But it's a lot worse to be like, oh, I wish I'd gone for it, or what could have happened. So yeah, just have a go. If you don't get in, you don't get in.
Yeah, I guess sort of similarly, like don't be afraid to sort of like go for things, and also like don't be afraid to not know things. Like I still, like having done like 3 years of PP, like I still know that there's like loads of it that I just don't understand and probably never will, and like that's completely fine. And I think sort of being very honest sometimes is probably the better approach, like even in tutorials and like at interviews, like sometimes just turning around and like putting your hands up and being like, I have no idea what's going on here, is sometimes the best approach, even though it seems counterintuitive, because it shows like you are willing to learn and like you're not sort of arrogant to think you know everything, which none of us do. Like, let's be real.
Yeah, definitely. I think that can be a big like fear factor. You think that, especially at interviews, I think you think everybody else is going to know the answer to all the questions, but in reality, they often ask questions that they know you won't know the answer to because they want to see how you would try to get there and how like responsive you are to learning. Yeah, and I mean, as kind of Dan said, like it's been 3 years and still, like I've been in tutorials where there's been 3 students and we all kind of have the same blank look on our face. We're like, no clue what's going on. So yeah, definitely kind of go for it is always the good advice, I think.
Yeah.
So that's all we have for time for today. Yeah, thank you so much, guys. We've learned some really cool stuff about PPE.
Yeah, thank you so
No
much to
problem.
both of you for sharing your experiences and joining us at Oxford from the Inside.
And also thank you to our followers for listening to this podcast and watching our YouTube videos.
So remember to follow us on Instagram at Oxford from the Inside and check out our Facebook page for regular updates on new content. Hope everyone stays safe and well, and until next time, we'll see you later. Everybody give us a wave.
Bye.
Bye.